Hello, Pisces. Welcome to your monthly zodiac reading for the month of May 2025. As always, we are going to pull an overall energy theme for the month. We will pull tarot for each week, clarify that with more tarot, as well as correlate those messages to the astrological transits that are occurring during those weeks. And then we will wrap it up with some additional oracle guidance. So let's see what Pisces needs to know for the month of May. Aquarius energy, collaborate. So right now we actually have Pluto is going to go retrograde May 4th. Anytime a retrograde occurs, the energy, instead of it being expressed outward, it is going to begin to be expressed inward. So if Pluto is death, rebirth, transformation, alchemizing things, secrets bubbling up to the surface, and us having to make choices based upon these things, these shadows that are being revealed. If that is what is happening externally, then what happens internally, then this is going to be directed inward, right? So we're going to begin to reevaluate decisions that we've been making or things that we've been growing towards or choices or changes that have occurred since around the second week in November. And for you guys, Pluto is actually going to go retrograde within your 12th house. This has a lot to do with the unseen. So things like spirituality, faith, mental health. The 12th house also governs the subconscious. It governs things like hidden secrets, addictions, escapism, all of the things essentially that have a direct impact on us, but that are very subtle and that are ultimately just all of the things that we can't see, right? So for you guys, Aquarius sits in that 12th house. So any of these changes, maybe transformations that you've been experiencing with your spirituality, your mental health, again, things like any sort of addictions, all of these things that are being revealed are kind of going to be reevaluated, right? So this is ultimately, I guess, the theme for you, but we also have the word collaborate here. So it may mean that within the month, you're going to maybe have to open up. You're going to have to learn how to collaborate and work with other people versus kind of doing things on your own, so to speak. Let's see what the tarot has to say. In Pluto's energy is very, very subtle. It's kind of like, it's something that you don't feel until you recognize that the change has happened and then you're looking back on it, right? Pluto is very much hindsight is 2020. Okay, so any changes and transformations that have been occurring within your mental health space, anything like that, like I said, 12th house themes, any changes or transformations that you've gone through in that aspect of life is most likely very Plutonian or Pluto related. I was about to break them like my oracle decks. Don't want to do that. So here in the first week, the Five of Pentacles in reverse. So the Five of Pentacles in reverse can represent coming to the end of a hardship, very much feeling like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, or even it can also represent that any changes, because it's a 5, any changes that have occurred were divine intervention. Here, like I said, May 4th, Pluto is going to go retrograde within your 11th house. So any transformations that have been made around your spirituality, your mental health, any sort of shadow work that you've been doing, all of those themes are going to begin to be reevaluated, right? Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? How does this information resonate with me now that these changes have taken place? On the 10th, Mercury, the planet of thoughts, ideas, communication, and messages, moves into the sign of Taurus. This is your third house. So this is the house that Mercury traditionally rules for you. This is your house of communication. So you guys could get very, very chatty. This card, the Five of Pentacles, actually represents Taurus energy. So you've maybe recently been encountering hardships when it comes to how you feel about yourself, maybe hardships, maybe you struggle to use your voice. But ultimately, it looks like this energy is moving forward, or it's reversing itself, so to speak. And you're going to really maybe begin to feel like those pressures lighten up a little bit. Here in the second week, this is when we are experiencing a full moon within the sign of Scorpio. Here you guys have got the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands, when she's in reverse, is very hot-headed. She's impulsive. She's brutally honest in kind of a mean girl way. She does things out of a wounded ego because she's represented by Leo energy. So this is a lot to do with ego and pride and confidence. And when she's in reverse, she struggles with confidence. She struggles with her self-esteem. She struggles to feel ultimately confident in her ability to show up in the way that she really wants to show up. Okay. So here in the second week, a full moon in Scorpio. Full moons are intense anyway, but Scorpio only amplifies that because of the energy that this is being filtered. This full moon is being filtered through. So full moons are a build up at a peak of energy where the light of that moon is either triggering things like emotions within Scorpio. This could be fears, anxieties, worries, things that have really been, it's almost like things that you've been aware of. You're there. You're like, I know this issue exists. I know I need to deal with it, but I'm just not going to deal with it right now. Could really be the things that kind of come to light. And the reason it's coming to light is because the cosmos, the universe is trying to get you to resolve this issue so that you can move forward. Scorpio for you guys sits in your 9th house. This is your house of higher learning, education, spiritual and cultural beliefs, long distance travel. So it could be when it comes to anything that you've been trying to learn here lately, maybe you're not feeling very confident in it. And the full moon in Scorpio is really going to be revealing that, right? Let's see. And I also heard like revealing maybe where you rely too much on others to tell you what you need to know versus having the confidence to know the answers already within yourself. Here in the third week, this is when Gemini season starts. We have the Five of Wands. The Five of Wands represents kind of like competitive tension, like a clash of egos even. And it could be like you see all of these people, like they're fighting each other with these wands, but they're not actually injuring one another, which makes the tension or the conflict very superficial. But it can definitely feel like I'm constantly coming up against obstacles. Maybe you feel like you consistently have to compete with an idea or another person. So for you guys, Gemini sits in your 4th house. This is the house of the home. This represents our physical home. It represents our like ancestral line, our ancestral lineage, as well as our emotional foundations, right? It represents how we were kind of conditioned emotionally as children. How were we nurtured? Did we feel safe? You know what I mean? Things that kind of represent that. And for you guys, maybe you are experiencing a lot of conflict within the home itself, right? You and just maybe another person, maybe your spouse, maybe a kiddo, maybe a teenager, because Leo does rule children. So maybe a child, you guys are just battling. You know what I mean? It's a clash of egos, feeling like you're constantly hitting obstacles with this person or when it comes to your home space. Here in the 4th week, this is the week that you've got the Magician in reverse. So the Magician in reverse can represent that there's a block. There's an energetic block that's kind of preventing you from creating the reality that you want or manifesting the thing that you actually want. There's an energetic block there. This can also represent that you or another person is being slightly manipulative, maybe not intentionally, but ultimately it can be a little bit of a manipulative energy. And even in a relationship, if you feel like ultimately the reading resonates in regards to a relationship, the Magician in reverse can represent a lack of chemistry or just an unhealthy chemistry between you and another person. Here in this here in the last week on the 25th, Saturn is moving into the sign of Aries. So Saturn is leaving your sign and it is moving into the sign of Aries. Saturn is very much boundaries, limitations, restrictions. It represents our humanity and how we are bound and restricted. Our souls are bound and restricted by our own humanity. It is also representative of time and karma. So Saturn moving into Aries, ideally we are going to see the rise of a disciplined warrior, right? An honorable warrior, because Aries is represented, or the archetype of the warrior. For you guys, this sits in your second house, and the second house governs themes such as material possessions, financial investments, and even your self-worth and your values. So it could be that you are becoming a little bit more honorable or disciplined. So say it comes to how you spend money on material possessions, you're going to become a little bit more financially disciplined when it comes to that. Maybe you're looking at long-term financial investments. Maybe that becomes more of a focus for you. Or even so, you just become a lot more disciplined when it comes to how much you value yourself. Okay. Here in the last week, we also have a Mercury moving into the sign of Gemini. So Mercury is moving into your fourth house. Again, the planet of thoughts, ideas, communication is moving into one of its home signs of Gemini. So this could bring a lot of influx, a lot of conversation around your home space. We also will experience a new moon in Gemini on the 27th. Again, your home life is being lit up, it's being amplified at this point. But new moons are a blank slate or an opportunity to set intentions or write a new chapter for ourselves in that particular area of life. Okay, and it may be that if you are dealing with a manipulative person, here in this week, hopefully the cards might be able to reveal, I'm going to begin to set intentions on how to handle this person. I'm going to start setting intentions on how to communicate, because we are looking at Gemini energy, communicate boundaries, right? Let's see what the rest of the tarot has to say. Too many at once. Here in the first week, the Five of Pentacles in reverse, Judgment. So any changes or conflict that have been made or that are coming up for you in regards to like your material possessions, finances, any challenges that you've been dealing with, have been an opportunity to really begin to make judgment calls based upon what you don't know, right? Here we've got judgment. Judgment is one, maybe stop judging yourself about where you're at on your journey. No one really, the world is judgmental enough, and the last thing we need is to be judgmental of ourselves. But ultimately, judgment can be about surrendering to the unknown, making that judgment call without knowing the potential outcome. Just doing what you feel like is right, doing what you feel like is best, doing what you feel like is mostly in your control, and then ultimately letting the outcome go. Here we have the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. When it comes to your finances, with the Ten of Pentacles in reverse, can also represent a separation. a divorce, a breakup of material family unit, a breakup of values. It can also represent just a loss, a financial loss in some way. But like you're kind of having to surrender to the unknown. You're kind of having to surrender to the fact that this moment, this reckoning is happening within your life, and there's not a lot you can do about it in this moment. What you can do, like I said, is focus on what you can control. For some of you, it may feel like divine intervention, that kind of a judgment call has been made about ending a relationship or ending an agreement or contract with someone. Ultimately, just recognize that that could be divine intervention, it happening for your own good in some way. But ultimately, I think the energy is like, when it comes to this really hard time that you're experiencing, recognize that everything has a purpose and that everything happens for a reason, and that you just have to have faith in what you know and what you can control, while you kind of let the other stuff play out as it's going to. Here in the second week, the Queen of Wands in reverse, the Nine of Pentacles, all right, and the Lovers in reverse. So for those of you who maybe feel, who, like I said, this might have to do with a relationship, that separation can lead to a real struggle within your confidence. Okay, and it can lead to a real struggle, maybe even to trust your intuition, or to tap into that spirituality, that faith, and hold on to that, right? And I don't think that that's what the cards are asking you here. It's like, at some point in time, again, focus on what you can control, because we've got the Nine of Pentacles here. The Nine of Pentacles represents the self-made woman. This can also be a working parent. But ultimately, what she's done is that she's created this life of structure, stability, and beauty within herself, because she's focused on her own development. She's focused on how to be more financially stable, right? She's focused on her health. How can I feel more healthy? She's focused on her well-being. And as a result, she's created this life of comfort for herself. She's created her sense of independence. And what needs to happen is, the reason that needs to happen is, not only is it going to boost your confidence, but it is going to ultimately maybe free you from any codependent tendencies that you have. The Lovers in reverse can represent an imbalance in a relationship, or even codependency, right? And the Queen of Wands, when she's in reverse, can also represent codependency. So if you have recently gone through a separation or divorce, this is the time for you. I know it's going to tap in. The separation itself can trigger a lot of fears around, like, a lack of confidence. But the Nine of Pentacles, the Lady of Leisure, is here to be like, no. I get that you're struggling with your confidence right now, but I promise you, let's just take this one step at a time, and you're going to ultimately regain your independence. You're going to become more confident in yourself. You're going to become more empowered by doing these things. And ultimately, you're going to begin to choose what is best for you above all else. Because the Lovers in reverse can also represent a need for self-love. And when we love ourselves enough to make healthier choices, we ultimately make choices for our highest good. And that's kind of what also needs to happen. The Queen of Wands, she's very scattered. She doesn't have a lot of self-control. And so maybe adding in that little bit of discipline, adding in that organization, adding in a little bit of maybe collaborate with someone, a friend, someone to help hold you accountable, a coach, a mentor, can help you ultimately begin to make choices that are for your highest good. Here, Five of Wands, the Three of Pentacles, this is where collaboration is going to come in. So again, with the home life, if there's a lot of tension, if there's a lot of like clash of egos even, this is where you want to begin to collaborate on a common goal. So say if you were married, you have children, and now you guys are separating, it can be a lot of ego flying around, right? A lot of anger, resentment, whatever the case may be, flying around. But this is where you have to begin to focus on what is the common goal here. The common goal is to create a safe and healthy environment for our children. That's the common goal. So then how can we take steps towards that common goal? How can we move towards that common goal, right? It may mean that you need to seek the advice of someone who is outside of the home. So if you are experiencing troubles within your home life, maybe seek out family therapy or family counseling. That's a good way to interpret this or how this can manifest. But ultimately, it's about collaborating on how you can create this sense of safety, luxury, and comfort for yourself and your family, right? How can I create this? How can I go about creating this, right? The Three of Pentacles is known as the architect of the tarot. And when we think of architects, what are they usually looking at? They're usually looking at plans. They're looking at blueprints. They're creating the blueprints. And that blueprint is to help guide their project along step by step. Well, what is the ultimate goal? This needs to happen. Well, what needs to happen for that to happen, right? There's a blueprint. There's a layout that has the ultimate picture, the final picture in mind, but also demonstrates step by step by step how you're going to get there. Okay, this is the time for you to make a plan on how you want to achieve this maybe financial stability or security and comfort. Here in the fourth week, we've got the Magician in reverse. The Queen of Swords, like I said, setting those boundaries. The Queen of Swords, she's a very clear communicator. She's clear, she's direct, she's compassionate, but she's also very clear and direct. She's very good about setting boundaries. So if there is, again, someone in your home life that is a little bit manipulative, you need to set clear boundaries with this person and start taking action towards, again, if this is a rocky relationship, maybe taking action towards a little bit of romance could help in that area. Also, too, if you feel like this does not resonate within the realm of a relationship, the Magician in reverse, like I said, can represent an inability or a block in your ability to create the life that you want or to manifest what it is that you want. So the Queen of Swords is like, look, pay attention to the overall picture. Pay attention to the overall picture. Take the emotion, take the attachment out of it. Take the attachment out of it. Take the need out of it. Take the desire out of it. And just look at the overall goal so that you can focus on how to get there. And that way, you can take action that's in alignment with this ultimate fulfillment in some way. So with that new moon, again, with it being happening in the house of the home, if there is someone in your home who is a little bit manipulative, this is the time for you to set boundaries with them, and then for you to be able to take action on how to work through any issues that may be proving to be problematic. If that does not involve a relationship, this is about you focusing on the overall picture, focusing on that higher perspective, and then really allowing that to guide you on the actions that you take. Let's see what the Oracle has to say. Conclusions are within reach. Yeah. It's almost there. Like whatever this is, whatever this hardship is, again, whether this is just financial hardship, you're kind of in this space where there's only so much that you can do. And worrying and fearing over it is not really going to help. Just know that if that's the case for you, again, whether this is in regards to a separation or just financially, this is ultimately coming to a conclusion. This sense of hardship is coming to a conclusion. Here in the second week, be bold and make the first move. So again, there's a lack of confidence. And if there is a struggle, like a lack of confidence in your ability to be independent, especially if you've just gotten away from, or especially if you maybe you're prone to codependent tendencies, again, by acting with self-love in mind when it comes to making choices, that is the ultimate act of self-love, right? When I choose what is for my highest good, that's when I create that self-love. That's when I remind myself that I'm worth the stability that I want. That's when I remind myself that I'm worth to feel confident in myself. That's when I remind myself that I am worth being independent or financially independent. I'm worth those things. So I'm going to show myself that by making choices out of self-love, making choices that are moving towards my highest good. And sometimes that may mean separating from a relationship that is ultimately unhealthy or not very balanced, or it could simply mean communicating that something needs to change within a relationship dynamic. So you can be bold and make that first move. Here, look at the bigger picture. What do you want to create long term? What is that ultimate blueprint of your life? What does that look like? Because if you've got a goal, if you've got an understanding of the steps that need to occur in order to achieve that goal, again, SMART goals, they sound very, very lame. They don't sound very mystical at all, but they're incredibly beneficial. There's a reason why they work, right? Because you've got a goal and you're now breaking that goal down into actionable steps. Okay. But what is the bigger picture? What does it look like for you? And how can you take actionable steps towards that goal? Here in the last week, the week of the new moon, you and your loved ones are safe. Set those boundaries. Begin to take action towards your own healing. Okay. If you, again, are struggling with feeling like there's this energetic block, know that you're safe to take action on the things that ultimately light you up, things that bring you peace, things that bring you love and joy and happiness. It's safe for you to do that. Okay. And you don't have to continue to block your energy with that fear anymore. So I truly hope this helped. I hope you guys have an incredible month, and we will see you next time.